Hey, it's John.
Now go. Flip. Flip. Go. Back pedal. Back pedal. Break. Go.
Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
And welcome. Thank you so much for joining me very late on a Thursday night. I mean, like my eyes, I'm having a hard time keeping them open, but I'm trying to get it up, get the fire going for you guys, man. Missed you guys. We're heading into one heck of a weekend. Biggest weekend by far in the recruiting cycle, and we're going to go over every one of those future Buckeyes. I also got a pile of predictions that I went over today from Phil Steele. Phil Steele's magazine arrived in my inbox today, and I spent a long time sifting through this. 356 pages of straight up nerd is what I call it. Just stats after data after info, and I love it. I'm only 30 pages in, and I burned definitely like 3 hours on that puppy today. But we'll go over a couple of the things I wanted to share with you that I picked up today, a few interesting nuggets. And our guy Tavien St. Clair did not win the Elite 11 competition. He had an amazing showing. He ended up losing it right at the end in the 7-on-7 competition. He didn't do so well. I blame the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Tavien just started playing 7-on-7 just a couple months, not even a couple months ago, like 1 month ago was his first ever 7-on-7 tournament. So, you know, there you go. They screwed us again with that stupid rule that lasted way too long. But all's well that ends well. Thank you, Trey McNutt. Maybe we'll talk about him later as well. And still not going to be good news. Anyway, he lost to Keelan Russell, who is committed to Alabama, but up until a week ago was committed to Southern Methodist. This is a excellent quarterback, high-rated 4-star quarterback of Duncanville in Texas, DeCorian Moore's quarterback. Awesome team, state champs. I want to know how in the heck Southern Methodist got him to commit to them in the first place. Like, I mean, it's a staying-home type of deal, so, you know, a little bit easier. You're not getting someone to come in from out of town, but, man, as good as this kid is, that must have cost them a fortune. But let's start here. Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, all-time great college football reporter. One of my personal favorites when I caught him maybe like 7-8 years ago saying that he grew up an Ohio State fan from Southern California. And he just explained it, but he just loved the Buckeyes. No real reason. Uniforms, whatever it is that some people end up liking somebody else's team from a million miles away. But, you know, once he said that, I dug him. Anyway, he went over some projections today with the playoffs for the upcoming season. And I think it's really interesting to look at the teams and how this kind of breaks down as we go into next year and look at some of these matchups that we might expect. So let's take a look here. So what you got here is the Buckeyes winning the Big Ten at number 1, Georgia winning the SEC at number 2, Florida State winning the ACC at number 3, and Utah winning the Big 12 at number 4. Then our home playoff games in that first round feature Notre Dame and Alabama at Notre Dame. Finally get to see the team from the South come up to the Midwest in the cold. How exciting would that one be? And Alabama and Notre Dame to boot. Tell you what, the only game that stands out as a dud is that Memphis and Texas game. Penn State going down to see Ole Miss in the Big Ten SEC showdown down south. I dig that one a lot. Miami heading out to Oregon. Oh, man, that home field advantage they got, traveling all the way out there with the time change, with that home field advantage, it's got to be the best one in this playoff moving forward. You got to think that they have the absolute best home field advantage for this thing. I mean, that's tough. That's a trip you don't want to make. If you took the playoff right now, this year's playoff, and you applied it to last year's teams, last year's standings, how everything broke down, you would have these following teams in the playoff: Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Missouri. Ole Miss, Michigan, Washington. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Group of 5, Liberty. ACC champ, Florida State. And if you were paying attention, yes, that is 10 Big Ten and SEC teams, the Group of 5, and the ACC champ. That's crazy. That's not going to happen moving forward because you still have to have the Big 12 champ, which last year was Texas, who's now in the SEC, the ACC champ, and the Group of 5 champ. So 9 out of the you can get 9 out of the possible 12 spots for the Big Ten and the SEC now. And we'll see how long they go with this Group of 5. So the Liberty team last year had the 133rd ranked schedule, and the teams that they played had a cumulative losing record. And that team would have bumped Oklahoma, number 12 Oklahoma, out of the playoff. Now, it's only a matter of time before a team that bad does this to a team like Oklahoma, who was very good last year. And when that happens, we talk about like, okay, look, if you're on the cusp, if you're 11 or 12, we don't care what your argument is at that point. Like the number 12 or the 13, 14, and 12th ranked team arguing over that last spot. Like nobody really cares if you're that far out of it about your argument. Don't lose that many games. But when it's unjust, and to me that is incredibly unjust for the team with the 133rd ranked schedule to go undefeated against a bunch of bums and then bump out a team that deserves it. Now I'm going to hear your argument. I hate this Group of 5 thing being in here. The whole giving them a shot thing. What shot, man? What shot does that team have? They got to win 4 games against that. Look at these behemoths. Come on now. If they made it a week, it would be a miracle. It would be awesome. It would be a great story. They have no shot. They need their own playoff. This is just silly. It really is. It's silly. We're pretending. I don't like pretending. But, boy, do those look like some juicy games, man. Look at that second round. The Buckeyes would play the winner of Notre Dame and Bama in this projection, and then go on to play the winner of Utah, Texas. I mean, this is so cool. I know. Listen, I know I've railed against this playoff. I still feel like we're going to lose a lot of the regular season, but boy, looking at that gets me excited. I got to admit it, guys. I sure want that home playoff game. Can we look at the number 5 team once more? Let's take a look at number 5. Let's look at Texas. So if you're number 5, odds are you get to play that Group of 5 team. So you get that layup easy game, right? Then the second round, you get to play what's most likely going to be the Big 12 champion or the ACC champion, but usually the Big 12 champion every year, who's going to be the weaker opponent of the Big 10, SEC, and ACC champion. So you get an easy one the first round, and then you get the easiest one in the second round. Plus, you get the home game. I don't know, man. That 5 seed looks pretty juicy. Obviously, you're going to want the bye. You're always going to want the bye. Injuries happen, things happen. But if you miss it by 1 and you end up getting that number 5 seed, let's put it this way. The difference between 5 and 6, quite a difference. Quite a difference. 6 has to play Miami and then go play the ACC champ. I guess that's still the better path. 7, not so hot. 7's a tough one. At least you get the home game. Administrators are dumb. We know this. The college football commissioners had a big powwow like they do every time this year. And they discuss initiatives and things they may do. And this year, they were going to discuss whether or not to add an early signing period in June. So if you think about it, right around this time of the year, when we're sitting here doing these official visits and some kids are talking about they want to wait till the season to sign. Others are saying, July 3rd, July 4th. A whole lot of them are signing around that time. It would already be done for the majority of them. We'd be over with it. It'd be over. And the ones that wanted to wait could wait. But if you wanted to be done with this, you could be done. Coaches would inevitably put a lot of pressure on kids to do that, and a lot of them would. And it would be a good thing. why wait? Why not knock as much of this out as you can in June? Hopefully you can get half your class in by June. It would be great. It alleviates some of the pressure. Well, as it stands, they did move the December signing period so that instead of after conference championship week, where you have the transfer portal opening, you have early national signing day, and you are preparing for the playoffs, all that stuff going on at the same time. At least it alleviates that by moving it to December 4th, which is before conference championship week. Well, that's great, but adding another one in June would be even better. They took a straw poll. They said, no, we're not going to do it. I don't understand why, but here's the reasoning that they gave. High school football coaches came out against it. High school football coaches, specifically from Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And they gave a couple reasons. The reason, number one, signing letters of intent prior to the coaching carousel would put the prospects in a bad situation. So they're saying if these guys sign their national letter of intent and the coach gets fired or he leaves, then they're in a bad situation. But there's already an answer for that. You get to transfer straight out, even if you've signed your national letter of intent. If that happens already, that's already a thing. So there's no problem there. The second reason, they still value, as college coaches, scouting departments watching high school seniors play their senior year. No problem. If you don't want these kids to sign early, they don't have to. You can say, I want to watch you your senior year. Again, not an issue. And the third one, they question whether prospects would even utilize that spring window. Okay, I don't get it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. What do you care? Here's the real crux of the thing. They're worried that guys are going to skip their senior year. They're worried that guys are going to sign in June and then not play their senior year of high school. I wouldn't be worried about that one bit. If you got a kid who is willing to skip his senior year of high school, it's either an absolute phenom like a Jeremiah Smith who's making tons of money already as a high school senior because now NIL is going to be legal, or it's a total loser, right? Like it's one of the two, a phenom or an absolute loser. In either case, who cares? It's way few and far between. Nobody's skipping their senior year. This is just absurd. If you can take something like that off of these coaches' plates, it's just better for everybody. It's better for the teams. It's better for the kids on the team. Can you imagine how obnoxious it would be to be a coach during the season and you're sitting here like, these guys could take all this away from me right now, at least half of it, and they're saying no because of those reasons? Like, those are nonsense reasons. Anyway, our buddies at USC, still trying to get used to these guys being a Big Ten conference member, had a rough week, man. So they're attempting to rebuild their defense, and they started off right off the rip with a bang. We talked about their big recruiting momentum early on, where they signed 3 5-stars out of Georgia, one of them on offense in Juju, and then they signed 2 defensive studs, Justice Terry and Elijah Griffin, 5 stars, defensive linemen. They decommitted within 24 hours of each other. Elijah Griffin, while he was in Columbus on his official visit, and then Justice Terry within 24 hours. Absolutely hilarious. And then today news comes out that Abdul McClain, who played for them in 2020, just got found guilty of mail fraud for orchestrating a scheme during COVID that netted him $280,000. He engineered this scheme with other football players while at USC, and they were getting the COVID benefits fraudulently, the unemployment benefits and such. So another ding for USC and quite a bad week, and it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Not a good look at all. We got a little confirmation today about the revenue sharing from Ross Bjork. There was a big question about Title 12. Would that be applying to this? He says it's not only the right thing to do, but it's the law. So yes, Title 12 going to apply. He said they're working on a plan. They are definitely going to max out all the money that they're allowed to spend. Ohio State has 2 money-making sports, football and basketball, and 34 other sports that lose money. There's over 1,000 athletes across those 36 programs. He says he does not expect the payments to be divided evenly between the athletes. So football, basketball, going to receive more money. But he also didn't rule out sports that get greater attendance and bring in greater money, like wrestling, women's basketball, and women's volleyball, that they might get a bigger piece of the pie as well. So more so than, I don't know, synchronized swimming or something. So it's pretty clear, regardless, that NIL is still going to play a very big role in this, because that's just not going to be enough money. Too many sports spread out too thin, and having the additional sports that Ohio State has compared to most schools makes it even smaller piece of the pie that gets to go to the football players. So NIL going to have to be part of it. And that's the biggest question here. What does the NIL look like? Does it actually come in-house? How does that change things? And if you are someone who got that email from 1870 Society today, and you know the email I'm talking about, email me, juckonbucks@gmail.com. I want to talk to you. If you got it, you know what I'm talking about. Braxton Miller in the Hall of Fame. We talked about that earlier. The other members of the Ohio State Athletic Hall of Fame came out today. Matt Wilhelm. Congratulations, Matt. You look fantastic holding that trophy. I love it, buddy. I loved Matt Wilhelm. Talk about a guy with long, skinny arms. It was not your typical linebacker look, man. He had the big pads, the long, skinny arms. He was good, though. He sure was good. I think he played for the Chargers for a little while, too. Really liked him. Greg Oden makes to the Hall of Fame. Kyle Snyder is still wrestling. So 3 NCAA titles, an Olympic gold medal, an Olympic silver medal, and he's going to be in Paris for these Olympics. One of the 10 best Ohio State athletes ever, no doubt. Also, retiring athletic director Gene Smith will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm sure not everybody's going to be thrilled to hear that news. So I talked earlier about Phil Steele's magazine. I want to go over a couple of things that I pulled out of there. So for one, our early All-Americans here. All right, so we talked about Phil Steele's magazine earlier, and I want to go over some of these nuggets. So for one, our preseason All-Americans. On offense, second team, Denzel. Why does that say 12? Yeah. Oh, no. All right, so I got Phil Steele's magazine, like I said earlier, and I want to go over a couple of these nuggets. And let's start with the top draft-eligible players. He ranked them 1 through 32. So essentially, here's the first round. Here are the first-round Buckeyes, according to Phil Steele. At number 12, Denzel. At number 14, Emeka. At number 22, JT. 23, Jack. 31, Tyleek. And 32, Quinshawn. 6 first-rounders. Ooh, baby. The player of the year, offensive player of the year, Carson Beck. The defensive player of the year, Iowa linebacker Jay Higgins. And the special teams player of the year, Alabama kicker Graham Nicholson. Remember him? Sure you do. He's the one from Miami of Ohio. You remember who we're talking about here. That wasn't great. Wasn't fantastic. Offensive All-American team. He's got 4 teams. We had one Buckeye make the first team. Donovan Jackson makes first team All-American. Travion Henderson makes the second team Offensive All-American. Emeka Ibuka makes third team All-American. And on defense, first team All-American Tyleek, second team JT, Denzel, and Caleb Downs. Nobody on the third team. Nobody on the fourth team, which means Jack Sawyer, who he rated. What did he rank? What did he rank Jack in the 23rd rated prospect? He rated him 23rd in the NFL. So no Jack, rated him 23rd on his 1 through 32 pro prospects. and he can't even make the fourth team? I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. All right, now here's where it got juicy for me. So every single unit on every single team is ranked. So he ranked everybody's quarterback room, running back room, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, defensive backfield. Now, a few weeks ago, I matched up the position groups of Oregon versus Ohio State. So I started diving into these numbers, and I wanted to see how his numbers match with mine. And after that, I decided to keep going. So I wanted to see, okay, how does Ohio State stack up against Texas? And then I kept going. And I ended up doing what I did with the 11 statistical categories that I thought represented the most important stats to judge a college football program with. And I did that with the top 10 teams in college football. And I added it all up, and the lowest number was the winner, and so on. Obviously, the lowest because you want to be number one in every category. And the same thing I did with these numbers here with position groups. So essentially, you want the number one ranked quarterback room, running back room, wide receiver room. So the lowest number is going to win. And I went through and I did it with a bunch of teams. And this information is really interesting. But first, let's go over Oregon versus Ohio State in the position group matchups and see how we stacked up. All right, so first quarterback room, Ohio State. Well, let's start with what I gave him. Quarterback room, I gave it to Oregon. Phil also gives it to Oregon with Ohio State's quarterback room, the 19th best room, which I thought was a little low. He is ranking the room here, not just the starter. 19th best room. Oregon, number 3. So Oregon wins that one. Running back room, I gave it to the Buckeyes. The Oregon fans had real issues with that. The Ohio State running back room is ranked number 1 in the country. Oregon's is ranked number 16. I was clearly right on that. Wide receiver room, I gave it to Ohio State, even though I know that most rankings are going to have Oregon ahead. They have nothing to go on by Jeremiah. So I am projecting out a little bit. Yes, I am. Nonetheless, Ohio State is the number 3 rated wide receiver room per Phil Steele. Oregon's is number 1. So they did win that one. Offensive line, I gave it to Oregon. They are the number 3 ranked offensive line. Ohio State is number 12. Respectable. I think they'll play even better than that. Defensive line, the Buckeyes took number 1. Ducks number 23. Linebacker, I gave it to the Buckeyes. And again, this is another unit like wide receiver where the Buckeyes are going to be a little unproven and definitely not going to beat Oregon on paper, who has Jeffrey Bassa and Justin Jacobs returning as their starting linebackers. Their unit was number 7. The Buckeyes were number 12. And the DBs. The Buckeyes, again, the 3rd number 1 unit in the country, take the cake against Oregon's number 11. They argued with me against that one, too. That was a silly argument. The Ohio State defensive backfield is the one I would have guaranteed before I even opened this thing up. Anybody was going to rate number 1, and they are. And that gives the Buckeyes the number 1 running back room, defensive line, and secondary in the entire country. Let's stack it up against those other teams. But first, let's count everybody down. So, remember, you want to get the lowest here. All those groups. So, let's say, for instance, the Buckeyes had the number 1 running back room, the number 3 wide receiver room. So now that's 4, and we're counting up the numbers. Georgia wins these position group battles with 41. Then Ohio State is second with 49. Texas is 60. Oregon 64. So the top 4 teams top 4 unit teams too. Notre Dame 93, Miami 99, Alabama 113, Florida State 142, and Michigan 213. And it would have been worse, but they only count quarterbacks to 68 groups. And Michigan didn't make that in the top 68. They're off the board. So who knows? They could be 115th and be even higher than that. That's pathetic. Now, the matchups against Ohio State, like I did against Oregon, against other teams. Let's see how they go. Buckeyes, Buckeyes, Buckeyes. Nah. All right. So Buckeyes versus Georgia. Ohio State wins 4 of the 7 groups. So Ohio State beats Georgia 4-3 when you go group to group. They beat Bama 6-1, and they beat Michigan 7-0. Toughest schedules in the country. We know Florida has a really hard one. Obviously, we've gone over that a couple times. Other contenders or pretenders of note, Florida was number 1 in his rankings. USC with the 3rd hardest schedule in the country. Georgia, 8. Alabama, 9. Florida State, 12. Michigan, 15. Clemson, 28. Now, Ohio State is number 35. We got a lot of people saying we have the worst schedule in the country. We're number 35 out of 134. Texas, worse than ours, number 36. Oregon, worse than ours, number 41. Miami, 43. Penn State, 49. Tennessee, 52. Notre Dame, 57. And Missouri in the mighty SEC with the 62nd ranked most difficult schedule in the country. Power poll. Now, this is just the very best team, not a prediction of where they're going to finish, a power poll of how good they are. Now, he does 9 power rankings. This is the most comprehensive one that has all the different smaller ones rolled into one. And Georgia came out as his number 1 power rated team, followed by Ohio State, Oregon, Texas. The number 5 spot was pretty interesting. Penn State, the 5th best team. Alabama, number 6. Oklahoma, number 7. How about that? Oklahoma with a win total of 7. So they're predicted to lose 5 games by Vegas this year. I am so hard rooting for Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC this year. They just think that they're going to walk in there and just absolutely get beat down by the rigorous SEC in and out every week. And I just hope they just stick it to them. I really do. The same way Missouri and Texas A&M, when they first came in there, they both won a championship real quick. But where was I? Getting heated up about the SEC again. Oh, okay. Power rankings. Where did I stop? Oklahoma, number 7. Notre Dame, number 8. Ole Miss, number 9. Miami, number 10. Now, you guys tell me there's no way they're making the playoffs. I'm telling you, these guys are legit. They're number 10. Utah at 11. Scum at 12. Clemson, FSU, Texas A&M round out the top 13. And in that top 25, we have 7 Big Ten teams: Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin. SEC, they got 9. Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, LSU, Missouri, and Florida. Florida? I guess so. All right, time for the juicy part here. Now we're heading in to the big last official visit, right? This one's the juicy one. This is the one we've all been waiting for, and it is set up absolutely beautifully, as coming in for their official visits will be Tavien St. Clair, Naeem Offord, and Tavien Sanchez, the 3 most elite, most dialed-in commits that we have in this class, the guys who have pulled most of this together, the ones who've done the majority of the peer recruiting, the ones who command respect because they are 3 of the top 6 players in the country, and they are kind and humble guys, and everybody loves them. They're special dudes. And to have those three on campus, usually you have official visits. Everybody's doing kind of, they're concerned about what they're going to do. They're all making big decisions. This is not the case with these three guys. They've been there dozens of times. They're coming up to enjoy themselves. They're going to be totally at ease. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic because of them, and not just them. We've got more, and we'll get to them. But they're all so locked in. And the fact that they are just so highly rated alone makes it more enticing to play with them. They're cool. They're highly rated. If I'm Malik Autry and I'm looking at these guys, I'm David Sanders. We're looking at this crew they're putting together, and they're all right there with us. We're getting to know each other, making friends. Fahim Delane committed, also coming in to hang out. Dude, the atmosphere is going to be perfect. So that means Dorian Brew, the top guy left on the defensive backfield, coming in for his official visit, hanging with Devin, Naeem, and Fahim Delane, talking about their plan to be the best in America, winning a national championship. This couldn't be setting up any better, guys. I absolutely love this. It gets even better. So Denzel hosting Devin, IGB is hosting Naeem, and Jermaine Matthews is hosting Dorian Brew. So we got the current, the future, and the next up in the same room, hanging out together. I absolutely love that. I was told that the rock star of the recruiting department left and went to Ann Arbor, but it sounds like somebody around there still knows what they're doing, because this was brilliant. And David Sanders on his final visit, baby. We need this guy for this offensive line. We just have to have him to salvage this. And it's so huge that it goes from using the words to salvaging a good class to making it a great class. So if he's not in it, I don't think there's any way they can make it a good class at this point. There's just too many of the prospects that could have made that big of a bump off the board now. But he changes it that much. From, we're talking salvage to huge, just off of one dude. That's how good he is. That's how impactful he is. And it's lining up good, man. He's had all his visits. Last one scheduled. He wants to make a decision before the football season. And I got to feel like this decision is going to be so incredibly thorough based on everything we've seen out of this guy and his family, that when he makes that decision, that's it. He's locked in. There's going to be no drama trying to hang on. We know it's down to Tennessee and Ohio State, and Georgia is trying the best they can to get into this. Three very competent, two extremely competent institutions in Tennessee. I mean, let's be honest. How are they even in this? I don't get it. But I have heard a lot of guys coming out of Tennessee recently talking about the atmosphere and the culture there. So Heupel's doing a good job, but they've just not proven enough over a long enough period of time for me to say I feel comfortable with my everything son going there and rolling the dice on Tennessee. Who knows? The guy could screw up and be fired in 2.5 years. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, man. It's Tennessee. They've just barely been back. You know what I mean? Down for 20 years. We know he feels comfortable at Ohio State. He absolutely loved his first couple of visits up at Ohio State. He came up once and then came back a second time real quick. The whole family, that was the unannounced visit that everybody found out about real fast and flew around Twitter. And we just can't lose to these guys, man. We cannot lose to Tennessee. After we lost Jackson Lloyd to Alabama and Kalen DeBoer's rookie rear end. So let's get it. Now, the second most important visitor, which currently most people think we're a real long shot for, but I got to tell you, I feel like this dude really is enamored with Larry Johnson, and that's always a great thing. Malik Autry, 5-star defensive tackle from Alabama who's committed to Auburn, 6'5.5", 320, an absolute must double team guy, sometimes triple, very quick for his size. The guy is just different. He is different than anything we have on the board. He's really different than anything we have on the team. We don't have one of these. This is the hardest kind of guy to come across. And when you got an opportunity, and we got one here, This is the rarest thing in football, to get one of these enormous 5-star monsters in the middle of the defense. The Bucs are going to pull out whatever they got to do to get Sanders. Would not surprise me at all if the second guy on their list to do that for is Malik Autry. When we talk about Dorian Brew, excellent player. Jordan Davison, same thing. Not like this. This is different. This is definitely different, as referenced by we have 2 excellent backs in the class, and we have 3 excellent defensive backs in the class. We have a couple really great edge rushers. We don't have a single one of these guys, and there isn't one. And the backup plans are Trajan Odom and Jarquez Carter, who are good, very good players in the middle. Not the same caliber of prospect, not particularly close. However, it would be okay if we had either of those guys. I'd still be happy about it. I think they're really good players. It's just different. This dude's just different. And, I sure hope they gain some ground on him. I really do. Florida is the other team who is really in the race here, trying to flip him from Auburn. And again, this guy is from 15 minutes outside of Auburn. So going to be a tough one. Here's a picture for you of him at Auburn. He clearly loves it, been going there forever. Alex Gleitman is one of the guys that covers recruiting for Letterman Row. Been working for Ohio, recruiting. Okay, Alex Gleitman covers recruiting at Ohio State. Been covering it for 13, 14 years. So a guy who knows what he's talking about. And he's in the loop. He's in the inner circle, if you know what I mean. And he said this today about Jordan Davison, which maybe is something, maybe a nothing, but here goes. There seem to have been some factors that have emerged as important to the Davison camp that maybe weren't really surfaced prior to the last month or so. So I would say these elements have caused Ohio State stock to dip a bit. And I would also say that if these factors remain in the decision, I certainly think it could help Ohio State's main competitor, Oregon. So he worded that kind of funky, and he did that because he doesn't want to say what really happened here. And I'm just going to say what I believe he's saying here is the Davison camp wants more money, and that certainly isn't helping his cause with Ohio State. That's what I'm reading out of that. You guys tell me what you read out of it. Maybe I should write the statement down because it's a little convoluted in the way it reads. There seem to have been some factors that have emerged as important to the Davison camp that maybe weren't really surfaced prior to the last month or so. I would say these elements have caused OSU stock to dip a bit, and I would say that if these factors remain in the decision, I certainly think that it could help Ohio State's main competition in the race, Oregon. Yeah. I think he's saying Davison wants more cash, and he wants it now. Now, I think Davison wants to be at Ohio State, and I still think he's going to end up at Ohio State because I don't think that they're going, unless this is a crazy demand, give the guy his money. Give him his money. It can't be a crazy demand. He's a running back, for crying out loud. If it's a crazy demand, I don't care if he walks, really. We got a loaded running back class. We can go grab somebody in the portal next year if we need to. I'm not concerned about it. But I don't know, man. This could be total nonsense. But here's the thing. These recruiting guys, they're getting their information from the staff. And not all of their information from the staff, but much of the information they're reporting on is coming straight from the staff. They feed them the information that they want them to have. And he's definitely one of those ones in the inner circle. So, is that true? Sometimes one could say if you were, I don't know, maybe if you were someone who was a little skeptical about things, when you hear a story like a guy commits somewhere else and Ohio State backed off of him, that maybe some of the guys that say that kind of thing are also getting fed that from the coaching staff and maybe don't quite believe it, but spread that out anyway to make people look better. Well, what if you knew things weren't going good with Davison and you were on the coaching staff, and you put something like that out to a reporter so that if things go bad, you know, the fan base always has a coach's back when the player ends up looking greedy. You know what I mean? You see where I'm getting at here? Just a theory. And it's not even a theory, I believe. I'm just saying I can see how some people believe that. I hear a lot of people talk like that. I'm not even going to air this. So what are we thinking? I don't know, man. I still feel good about Jordan Davison. I'm certainly going to not stop feeling good because of that little blurb right there. But I do see what he's getting at there. And, you know, we can certainly see how that might happen. At some point, maybe there will be a position salary cap because a running back shouldn't be out here demanding all sorts of money. Especially when you got Bo Jackson and Isaiah West in the class already. Tell you what, though, if he goes to Oregon after all this courtship and it ends up being over money, be fun for the rivalry, the burgeoning rivalry. All right, so outside of those guys, you got your Jake Cook and your Brody Lemon. So outside of those guys who are a done deal data, and the guys who are not signed yet, well, you also got Jake Cook and Brody Lennon, two Ohio guys just recently got their offer coming in to have a good time, and they deserve it. They're going to be Buckeyes. Also coming, Jaden Harmon from Georgia. This is a top 150 guy. He's a linebacker. James really likes him. He's been at Ohio State one time, and he is committed to Alabama. Says he feels good about that commitment, but he wants to come up and see what Ohio State has to offer one more time. I would sure love to stick it to Bama, though I'm not crazy about this kid as a player. I would absolutely love to get them back for the Jackson Lloyd thing the other day, and that would just make me feel really good. Of course, we got Zion Grady in the mix, the third of the Bama boys, along with Malik Autry and Naeem Offord. Naeem Offord said a little while back that he was going to get those two, and having those three on campus together, really big. There are some people that say they think Ziggy Grady is more interested in coming to Ohio State than Malik Autry. He's a really athletic edge rusher, and you would really like to get one more to add to London Merritt and Zahir Mathis. And on that topic of Zahir Mathis, there is some smoke about Zahir Mathis maybe being on somebody else's campus this weekend. So look for the rumors to start spiraling about him being a potential flip soon. Keep in mind, he didn't take an official visit. He's planning on taking one in the fall. It's felt for a while like he's been one of the few guys that is totally out of sight, out of mind. You don't hear anything from him. You don't hear much about him. It wouldn't stun me if he was on someone else's campus this week. And it wouldn't stun me if he reopened his commitment. I don't know. Would you be stunned? I wouldn't be. We just haven't heard anything from him. Great player. But I think it makes Ziggy Grady even more important. So let's hope we can make some traction there. But everything's set up to be great. If you can't get some traction with this setup here, then it was never going to happen with any of these guys. You know what I mean? If there's a guy here and you can't move the needle with this, we did everything we could then. We're talking about two fists full of Buckeyes. Nate Roberts going to be there. Even the guys that like Jake and Brody, these are Buckeyes, man. They're going to be recruiting those dudes too, you know? It's going to be awesome. All right. Thanks for educating me. You're great, but if Caleb Downs gets hurt running the ball on a punt, what are you going to say? I'm going to say that football player got injured playing football. That's just my stance, man. Let the football players play the football. I cannot stand the bubble wrap mentality that we have grown into. And I'm not somebody who runs around saying, put flags on them. Like, you know what I mean? But this is the kind of thing, this kind of mindset that I can't stand. We're not going to let the football player play football at this position because he's so good at this position. He's a great football player at any position. Now you're valuing how much is it worth putting him back there. I'm saying, do you remember all the times that games have swung on special teams returns? Lots of games, man. Lots of games. That thing just absolutely crushes momentum sometimes when you've got a lethal weapon back there. I miss it. I want it back. And we got a dude that's incredibly talented. And if he wants to run the ball, and Ryan Day told him, you can run the ball some if you come up here, Ryan Day's got to stick to his word. So I've seen people absolutely freaking out about this. And I think that everybody needs to recalibrate their brains when it comes to bubble wrapping players. It's just something I can't ever get behind. Doreen says, love mornings with Chuck, and her coffee cup. Thank you, Doreen. I enjoy our mornings together as well. And that's all I got. You guys had some great ones today, but, nothing really for me to expound upon other than the gentleman who emailed me from Oregon saying I could come stay at his house because I mentioned that the Airbnbs were so hard to find out there. I appreciate that offer, buddy. It's more the flight. I just don't want to fly out there. But, I would absolutely stay at your house if I was going out there. So I thank you so much. Guys, I will see you on the weekend show. I appreciate you so much. Have a great night. Goodbye. Chuck and Bucks out. Bye-bye now.